Hello, friends, frenemies, and fellow truth seekers. Today I was hoping to bring you my take on how news nibblers become Nazis. But I think there are quite a few people out there that are talking about this already. So I want to focus on something that you've come to understand about why I'm even taking the time to talk to you. What you're looking at here is an image that was taken along with a number of other images by a friend of mine who was my source for a while, and he provided me with information that I want to be able to share with you so you understand its importance to your own life. Because no matter who you are, if you're watching this, chances are we have not gone through the event that I have been warning about. And because it's of such a horrific nature, it brings me no pleasure to bring news of it to you. But this is a concrete image, literally a concrete image. This happens to be a guard post of a sort that is in the area surrounding the perimeter of a location where the most elite of the elites of Europe and the world will be going when the time comes. And they've left you with no choice but to fend for yourself. And worse, they haven't told you about it, which is what I have to, unfortunately, attempt to do here. In any event, I've talked to you about this before, but now you'll be seeing some images to hopefully bring it home to you. Now, there are two facilities, the pictures of which are mingled up in this short video. Some of them are taken of a facility that is actually a much larger facility where the members of the second level, the managerial types, will be going. And that is a group that numbers over 5,000. The first group is more like 300. Actually, make that 600 because each of them will have a significant other with them. So under 1,000. That will be the creme de la creme. And for that facility, they have missile emplacements to protect themselves with. This one, at the time of this image being taken, was in the process of being hardened and renovated. You see, when they learned from Nancy Leader and the Zetas in 2010 that the time frame would only allow 2 hours of safety from the time the New Madrid rips America in half, literally, and the time that those tsunami waters of 200 to 300 feet will wash across the Atlantic, wash over Western Europe. The death toll will be so horrific, it's hard to describe. So they've arranged for a place to be safe themselves, of course at your expense, and hopefully if you get the message, you'll make the attempt to do the same thing where you are. Here's another image. Now, these were apparently World War II era, Cold War era bunker facilities that were a lot closer to the surface because the deep underground military bases are not going to be safe. But they've been promised to many of the underlings who think they will be, having no idea that they are essentially being condemned to death by the people who have let them in on the secret and harnessed them to do their bidding. So they will have a place in the deep safety of these underground bases. Many of them have already gone there, or many have at least visited. But what is amazing is the depth of treachery that some people will go just to exhibit the kind of evil, the depth of evil that is powering, that is motivating a very small group of people. this is generally referred to as a cabal, that intend to survive what is coming at your expense. And of course, the big test about all of this is not just in whether we can survive, but in how we survive. Because if we attempt to lose all morality in our attempt to survive, having not prepared, what good would it have profited us? Because these temporary flesh suits only last about 79 years on average. And then you have to go and get a new one. This concept is alien to many people, and unfortunately, it's led to a lot of misunderstandings that could have been prevented, but that's part of the lessons, what we're here on Earth for, to learn these things. Anyway, we're getting back to the images you're looking at on your screen. These facilities, as I said, were built in the late 40s and 50s during World War II, and they're close enough to the surface that they shouldn't be facing the same problems. Although in this particular instance, my friend, and I will call him Mr. J because I don't think anybody by that name has survived, and I'm sure that he would want you to know this as well. It has been several years since I've heard from him, so I don't doubt it that they've already gotten to him, and just like so many others, they've murdered him, because he inadvertently came into possession of the secret. He told me that he couldn't sleep at nights, that's why he reached out to me, and it took him a full year before he sent his second email to me. This image shows you the somewhat defunct character. The decrepit look that you see is a result of the age, and it's carefully maintained so that it doesn't look like anything too intimidating or too fresh. However, inside the perimeter of this fence lies a huge facility underground in which over 5,000 people are intending to go to ride out this event. And the reason that my source came to know this, the reason Mr. J came to take these pictures, is because he had to serve as both bodyguard and chauffeur for a group of architects and engineers who had been summoned to a facility in the Czech Republic that had once been the headquarters of the communist government's Air Force, the Czechoslovakian component of the Warsaw Pact. And as such, it was a facility that went into disuse. Let me clarify. When Mr. J took his little group of engineers to this facility, he first went to a larger facility that belonged to an operating NATO base, and he had to wait because he didn't have the proper classifications for his group to go through a briefing of some sort. From that facility, they went to this older facility that you're seeing in these pictures. And this is the group that went inside of this vast underground base complex, this bunker complex. On the surface of the land, if you were to send a drone over it or a helicopter, you would only see what looked like wilderness, forest, no activity of humankind of any kind. But underneath a scrim, there were dozens of forklifts and trucks being unloaded, and forklifts carrying everything into these shafts and these conveyor belts to transport things deep into the underground complex. They were in there several hours, and when they returned, and Mr. J picked them up at the gate, or they were delivered to him, and while they were in the vehicle as they were returning to Brussels, the headquarters of the European Union, if you weren't aware of that. They were very hushed and very concerned, and they were afraid that if they spoke too openly, their driver, Mr. J, might overhear them, so they thought they had discovered that he did not know Italian. So they agreed to speak in Italian because some of them were Italian and others knew the language. Mr. J pretended like he didn't, so when they spoke, he was able to understand that they were essentially describing a situation in which they had been asked what it would take to make sure that the air shafts for this facility could withstand 10 plus magnitude earthquakes and still be able to provide air to the occupants. Now, this is not the deep underground military base, not the ones that all the major names in Patriot Intel are telling you about. This is something that you're not aware of. I'm certain of it. Unless, of course, you were part of this. In which case, you might either be sworn to secrecy, and you can't speak about it, or you might be secretly glad that somebody's at least talking about it. Nonetheless, to return to the story, Mr. J, let me give you another image. And I really should be able to share all of these pictures with you. But this is a facility that was being prepared for these people to go to once the new Madrid rips America in half. They have approximately 2 hours to do this, and so before they learned of the 2-hour time frame, they thought they had more time, so this first exercise was essentially to put logistical theory to the test and see how long it would take to get these 300 powerful poobahs of the planet from Brussels to the secret bunker complex. Now, their bunker complex, just to reiterate, is a different facility. The one in the Czech Republic that I'm speaking of is for their underlings who think they will be safe there. Anyway, the very superior group, the Cabal, they were taken to this facility by helicopter the second time the exercise was run in 2010, but the first time they were taken to an airport. And this is, you will see the stand-ins as the citizens, rather the soldiers, conducting the exercise, who were doing it thinking that they were rescuing their expatriate diplomats from a foreign posting in a Central Asian country fictionally called Madistan. Actually, it was a cover story for the real deal because they were in Brussels, but it was a dry run for Brussels itself. They anticipated some civil unrest. Let's see if we can hear what's going on. The gunshots, of course, they were shooting blanks, but this is a real military exercise. And they had to secure the people they were entrusted with protecting and delivering them safely to the buses. These are the soldiers that were in the process of doing that. And members of their family were standing for the royalty and powerful poobahs. This is a basic driving line. Now, I have no film or footage of any of the images of the people. In the second running of the exercise, when they used helicopters. In this one, everyone is picked up and taken to the local airport. This is as they're advancing into the town. Really, you should see the beginning And you're seeing the end because this is one of the entrances to one of the bunkers. Here's the bunker after being resupplied. You can see hundreds of pallets, all the foodstuffs for the hidey-holes of the rich and powerful. Here are the troops that are coming into town after landing to rescue them, to make sure that they could be secured from the mobs of indignant Europeans who have finally learned of what is really going on. So they'll need to be protected from those mobs. You see all the heavy military presence. This is a staging area. This is as they're moving through town. Here they are picking up their relatives, taking them to the airport. Of course, making sure they're positioned as snipers to pick off any terrorists or outraged citizens that aren't taking too kindly to what's going on. Here were the large lumbering C-5A and larger planes. Here's the airport. The troops have secured it. They're protecting the perimeter. There's a snapshot of some of the participants playing the role. And of course, for all intents and purposes, most of the participants that you see here had no idea of what they were truly preparing for. And some of these images you can even find online as part of the official story of Operation Stormtide. As I've explained before, consider that name, Operation Stormtide. Yeah, this is when they first arrived. And that's where that all ends up. Okay, so I hope you have a better idea of what we are facing. This is no laughing matter. This isn't just some odd hobby. This is no conspiracy theory. But if anybody asks you why you're taking the extra step of being prepared, you can always refer to that dark winter that we've been hearing about, both from the true president that was going to be elected, or rather going to be returned to office, which he will be after the announcements are made, because Mother Nature is going to be doing the heavy lifting, sadly. At least evil doesn't win either, and that's the important thing. It will come down to each individual. So until next time, God bless and good luck.